Imagine inheriting an empire that stretches across the English Channel. Not just a kingdom, but a whole cross-channel machine, England, and huge chunks of what we now call France. Castles, ports, taxes, armies, the whole thing. Now imagine having all of that handed to you, and within a few short years, most of it is gone. Not because of some unstoppable natural disaster. Not because your enemies suddenly invented teleportation. But because you keep choosing the option labeled, very clearly, do not press. Today on Royal Idiots, we're digging into the story of King John of England and how he managed to take a family empire built over decades and shrink it down to basically, congrats, you still have England. Welcome to Royal Idiots, the podcast where we explore the most powerful bad decisions in history. I'm your host, Melissa, and today we're looking at the life and reign of King John, the man who inherited a continental empire and somehow turned it into an island kingdom. To get why John's story is such a spectacular fumble, we have to understand what the Angevin Empire even was. Because it wasn't one neat, unified country with a single flag and a tidy national identity. It was more like a family business with branches everywhere, held together by oaths, marriages, and a lot of don't you dare betray me. Picture the map around the year 1200. England sits across the Channel from Normandy. South of Normandy you've got Anjou, Maine, Touraine. Farther down and wider out, there's Aquitaine, the enormous duchy tied to the English crown through Eleanor of Aquitaine. If you're the ruler, you're not just a king, you're also a duke, a count, a lord in multiple places, and each place has its own nobles, its own grudges, and its own idea of what you owe them. And here's the awkward part. A lot of those lands are technically held from the King of France. So the King of England can be, at the exact same time, a monarch in his own right and a vassal who's supposed to show up, swear loyalty, and obey the French king in his role as Duke of Normandy or Duke of Aquitaine. If that sounds like a recipe for constant tension, congratulations, you understand medieval politics. Now, the Angevin Empire had been assembled by a family with a talent for ambition. Henry II built the foundation. Smart, relentless, and very good at getting what he wanted. Richard I, the Lionheart, kept it together mostly through sheer reputation and military power, even if he spent a lot of his reign away on crusade or raising money for wars. And then there's John, the youngest son, not originally supposed to inherit much at all, which is how he got the unfortunate nickname Lackland. It's not exactly the kind of branding you want when you're trying to project strength. When Richard dies in 1199, the empire needs someone to hold it together. And in a world where loyalty is conditional and opportunistic, the first job of the new ruler is simple to describe and extremely hard to do. Convince everyone you're the safest bet. And that brings us to John's rise to power, which is also, in many ways, the start of the problem. John becomes king in a moment where the dynasty's holdings are still impressive, but also fragile. A lot of nobles in the French territories don't love being ruled from across the sea. Some of them tolerated Henry II. Many admired Richard. John does not arrive with that aura. Early on, John's main advantage is that he is, legally, the adult brother of the dead king. He can move quickly. He can claim the throne. He can get crowned. And he can start demanding loyalty. But John isn't the only claimant. There's a teenager named Arthur of Brittany, John's nephew, who has his own supporters, especially in parts of France where people would prefer almost anyone over John. So right away, this is not a peaceful inheritance. It's a test of alliances, reputation, and timing. And hovering over all of it is the King of France, Philip II, one of the most capable political operators of the era. If you want one sentence that explains Philip II, it's this: he's patient, he's strategic, and he can smell weakness like it's being served hot from the oven. Philip's goal isn't complicated either. He wants to break the Angevin hold on French territory and pull those lands into the French crown. Every dispute among the Angevins is an opportunity. Every angry baron is a tool. Every misstep by John is basically a gift basket. Now, to be fair to John for one tiny moment, just one, he does have a chance. The Angevin Empire isn't doomed by nature. A careful ruler could stabilize loyalties, negotiate smartly, and if necessary, fight in a way that keeps the core territories, especially Normandy, secure. But careful isn't really the vibe we're dealing with. John's personality, as it comes down to us through chroniclers and later reputation, is complicated. He's intelligent in a technical sense. He can be energetic. But he's also suspicious, impulsive, and often cruel in ways that rip up trust he cannot afford to lose. And in a feudal world, trust isn't a nice bonus. It's the operating system. If your nobles think you'll punish them, humiliate them, or confiscate their lands on a whim, they don't just get sad about it. They look for a better boss. So John starts his reign juggling rivals, managing France, and trying to keep his continental lands. And then he steps into the moment that defines this whole story. The string of choices, political and personal, that turns a delicate situation into a collapse. Here we are, the idiot moment. Or maybe, the idiot era. Because with John, it's less like one bad button push and more like a whole finger-smudged control panel of what if we do the worst possible thing, repeatedly. Let's start with the crisis that lights the fuse, Arthur of Brittany. Arthur isn't just a rival claimant in a legal sense. He's a magnet for everyone who wants to challenge John. If you're a baron who doesn't like John, supporting Arthur is a way to keep your options open. John takes action. There's conflict, maneuvering, and eventually Arthur is captured. At that moment, John has choices. The smart options are boring but effective. Ransom him, keep him safely confined, negotiate a settlement, or use him as leverage without turning him into a martyr. Instead, Arthur disappears. He vanishes from the historical record under John's custody, and something about the whole situation convinces a lot of people that John is responsible for his death. Even if you try to give John every benefit of the doubt, this is a disaster. Because optics matter. In a feudal society, the legitimacy of a ruler is constantly being negotiated by rumor, reputation, and public belief. And the belief that John killed his young nephew is like pouring gasoline over already smoldering resentment. And that resentment isn't polite. It's practical. If you're a noble in Normandy or Anjou, you start thinking, if he'll do that to his own family, what will he do to me? Now Philip II doesn't need to invent a reason to move against John, he just needs a usable one. And this situation hands him exactly that. A way to present John as a ruler who has broken the moral and political expectations of the feudal world. Philip summons John to court, because John is, on paper, Philip's vassal in France. When John doesn't show up in a way Philip considers acceptable, Philip does what a strong overlord can do, he declares John's French lands forfeit. This is the nightmare scenario. It's not just we're fighting again. It's a legal pretext to dismantle the Angevin position piece by piece, with rebellious nobles and French armies working in tandem. So what does John do while Philip is coordinating pressure and building momentum? John manages relationships badly. He alienates key allies. He makes enemies out of people he needs. He squeezes and threatens instead of stabilizing and persuading. And there's another major cell phone in the background. John's reputation with the barons is already fragile because he's seen as unpredictable and punitive. When you're defending a sprawling set of territories, you can't afford to have your own local power brokers quietly thinking, honestly, the French king might be simpler. Philip's approach is the opposite. He's consistent. He rewards people who come over to his side. He applies pressure where loyalty is thin. He plays the long game, and he shows up. John, meanwhile, doesn't just have to win battles. He has to win confidence. And he doesn't seem to understand that this is the real war. By 1203 and 1204, the situation in Normandy becomes critical. Normandy is not just some random province. It's the bridge between England and the continental holdings. It's the ancestral heartland of the Norman kings. Losing Normandy isn't just a territorial loss. It's like losing the hinge that the entire door swings on. Philip invades. Castles fall. Support for John erodes. And then comes the headline moment. In 1204, Normandy is effectively lost. Let that sink in. William the Conqueror's legacy, the territory that had linked England with the continent for generations, slips away. And here's the thing. John doesn't just lose a war. He loses a system. Once Normandy goes, holding everything else becomes much harder. Movement across the Channel is riskier. Raising forces is more expensive. Communication is slower. And nobles who are on the fence start making decisions that are hard to reverse. If you're a lord in Anjou and you believe the French king is now the power who can protect you, you don't stay loyal to the guy who might not even be able to show up in time. This is the core tragedy-comedy of John's reign. He inherits a continental empire and, through a mix of cruelty, bungled politics, and strategic mismanagement, he accelerates its breakup. Philip isn't just stronger. John is also making it easier. So what are the consequences? Predictably, they're enormous, and they ripple out far beyond John's personal embarrassment. First, there's the immediate political consequence. The French crown expands dramatically. Philip II consolidates authority. The French monarchy becomes more powerful as these territories come under tighter royal control. This is one of the building blocks of what later becomes a more centralized French state. Second, England's posture changes. England becomes more clearly an island-based kingdom rather than the center of a cross-channel empire. That doesn't mean England stops caring about France. Oh, absolutely not. If anything, resentment and ambition simmer for generations. Third, John's loss of revenue is brutal. Those French territories were not just prestige, they were money. They were estates, dues, and economic power. When that shrinks, John still has the same expensive problems: governance, defense, ambition, and the need to project royal authority. So he squeezes England harder. More taxes, more demands, more fines, more aggressive enforcement. And if you're an English baron watching your king lose Normandy and then demand you pay even more for his attempts to fix it, you start asking a question that is extremely dangerous for a medieval monarch. Which is, why are we listening to you? This is where the collapse of the Angevin Empire connects to a bigger English story. Because John's struggles, and his methods, feed directly into the discontent that eventually explodes later in his reign. And even if you know nothing else about King John, you've probably heard a certain phrase associated with him: Magna Carta. We're not doing the full Magna Carta episode today, but it's important as a consequence. John's failures abroad and pressure at home contribute to a political showdown that forces limits, at least on paper, on royal power. So the loss of France isn't just a map change. It's a shift in English political life. A king who looks weak and behaves harshly creates the conditions where powerful subjects push back. There's also the cultural and psychological consequence. Plantagenet kings before John could imagine themselves as major continental players by default. After 1204, that identity takes a hit. It doesn't die, again, later conflict proves that, but it changes. The relationship between English kings and French lands becomes more complicated, more contested, and more obsessed with recovery. And then there's John's personal legacy, which is famously terrible. When people think of King John, they think of villains. Sometimes literally, thanks to the Robin Hood tradition, where John often appears as the sneering bad guy while Richard is the heroic absent king. Now, it's worth noting, medieval propaganda and later storytelling amplify certain traits. John didn't personally wake up every day and announce, "Time to be the cartoon villain." History is messier than that. But even allowing for exaggeration, the outline remains. His reign is marked by lost territory, eroded trust, and political crises. He becomes the king associated with failure, especially the failure to hold on to France. So what's the legacy of John losing France, beyond John himself? On the French side, Philip II's success helped strengthen the Capetian monarchy. The French crown is no longer just first among equals. It's increasingly the center of the political universe in France. On the English side, the loss forces a reorientation. England is still wealthy and powerful in its own way, but the dream of a stable cross-channel empire built on feudal ties is badly damaged. And in the long term, the unresolved tension, English kings with claims, ambitions, and grudges tied to France, doesn't disappear. It mutates. It becomes part of the recurring cycle of Anglo-French rivalry that flares up again and again. Here's another legacy. John's story becomes a case study in how not to manage feudal politics. Because medieval power isn't only about armies. It's about relationships. It's a constant negotiation of loyalty, honor, obligation, fear, and reward. If you're strong but hated, you can sometimes survive. If you're liked but weak, you might manage. But if you're perceived as both unreliable and losing, people don't just get concerned. They switch sides. And John, more than almost anyone, demonstrates how fast a political structure can unravel when confidence collapses. All right, it's time for the royal idiot verdict. So how should we judge King John? On the royal idiot scale, we've got strategic genius, competent but flawed, questionable judgment, royal disaster, and legendary idiot. John gets a royal disaster. And I'm not giving that lightly. Philip II is a formidable opponent, that's true. The feudal setup is messy, that's also true. But John didn't merely lose to a stronger rival. He repeatedly made choices that burned bridges he needed, turned potential allies into enemies, and transformed a delicate succession challenge into a full-on collapse. When you inherit a continental empire and end up with, essentially, at least we still have England, that's not just bad luck. That's leadership failure at the highest level. Next time on Royal Idiots, we'll explore the Magna Carta. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the podcast and share it with a fellow history fan. And the next time you misplace your keys, just remember, at least you didn't misplace Normandy.